can become rich. And not just in money, but in every way. I want to read something to you about one of the people that I'm always talking about. I'm always talking about Colonel Sanders and Kentucky Fried Chicken, you know, as an example. And People magazine of October 7 carried an article on him. And from this article, it sort of proves to me that anyone can become rich, regardless of how old you are, because Colonel Sanders is 84 years old now. Regardless of your education, regardless of how much or how little you may have. Colonel Sanders dropped out at 6th grade. I don't advise you to do that. But when you read things like this, it lets you know that there is an opportunity for anyone to be what he wants to be, to do what he wants to do, and to have what he wants to have. In this business of acquiring money, right away, I'm going to also advise you to form a habit which I have formed. Everything that you can get your hands on that gives examples and stories about successful people, you just gobble it right up. Keep your ears and your eyes open for success. Too many times people today are just like they were in the days of Jesus. He said, having eyes you see not, the ears you hear not. Success and prosperity are within you and all around you all the time, in spite of all of the pessimistic things that you can look at. Once you learn to focus your mental vision on success, you'll always be seeing it, and you will increase your own experience of it. Some of the wealthiest people in the world today started out as poor as dirt, so to speak. But too many times when people see the so-called rich people, they don't think about that. They forget. They just curse the rich. And I tell you time and time again, as long as you curse the rich and criticize the rich, you'll never be one of them. Henry Ford didn't start as a billionaire. Many of the multi-millionaires today, their families came to America with less than nothing. All right. I want to share this with you. I want to read this, and I want you to listen. Listen with your heart. Colonel Sanders and his lady. He cooks and she cleans the pots. Oh, some of you may not know who Colonel Sanders is. He started Kentucky Fried Chicken. A lot of people do. According to the title of a new little autobiography by the octogenarian Kentucky Colonel Harlan Sanders, life as I have known it is finger-licking good. But of course, the book doesn't quite mention all of the deep fat under the dam before his life got so tasty. The colonel was divorced at 57, wiped out at 65, when a new interstate bypassed his Kentucky Crossroads gas station and cafe. But along the way, Sanders was remarried to one of his former waitresses, and that made a difference. I always hired widows and children, he recalled, because they had to work and didn't have any foolishness about them. Claudia, too, was a grass widow, and like the colonel, combined sufficient earnestness. What's that word? Earnestness, with appropriate marketing foolishness to turn the chicken biz into a barrel of billions. It was in 1955, backed by his first $105 Social Security check, his mother's recipe, and a patent-pending special pressure cooker that Colonel and Mrs. Sanders got into their 1956 Ford and into the consulting-cum-franchising business, teaching roadhouses how to straighten up and fry right. I want you to notice what he started with in terms of money. You know, some people say if I had $1 million, if I had 1,000. But he started with a $105 Social Security check. You see, people always count themselves out and always talk about, well, if I had, if I was. You know, everybody has something to start with. And I want to put that in the first person. And I want you to touch yourself and say to yourself, I have something to start with. Come on. I have something to start with. I have something to build upon. And you see, but people always downgrade what they have, belittle it. But this man took a $105 Social Security check, started a multi-million-dollar business. The article continues, Claudia and me got up a sort of an act. We would go into a franchise place, and she would wear the old-time dress, the hoop skirt, you know, and I'd be in my Kentucky Colonel outfit. She would serve the chicken, and when I was done in the kitchen, I would come out and mingle with the guests. 7 years later, the Sanderses sold their Kentucky Fried Chicken secret formula and slogan to a Louisville-based syndicate for $2 million. Which, wait a minute, though, that's worth a clap, but just wait just 1 second to this. Which, in turn, was absorbed by Hugh Blaine Incorporated in 1971 for $285 million. Now go ahead, let loose and clap. You see, this is another thing. You should learn to praise success. Write that down. Praise success. Praise the success of others. You should learn to praise prosperity. Praise the prosperity of others. The people are in the negative habit, as I say, of cursing the rich. All right, so far, here in reading this article, we see that a man started out with $105 Social Security check, and now his business was absorbed in 1971 for $285 million. Isn't that success? Isn't that prosperity? And you should get excited. One of the ways to prosper yourself, again, is to get excited over prosperity. Get excited about success, wherever you see it. Because anything that you really become emotionally exercised about, it's going to rub off on you at some point or the other. The Colonel still continued to do TV spots and serve as goodwill ambassador for the chain, earning up to $250,000 a year. You see, even after he sold the thing, he still made money. Doing publicity for it, $250,000 a year, just doing publicity. How about that? At 80-some years of age. Now, what have you other 90-year-old folks around here going to do? But to Saunders, the deal was a no-buyout annuity. At 84, he still travels 250,000 miles a year on behalf of the worldwide $5,300 outlet empire. You see how many chicken houses they have now? 5,300. Last winter, when he and Claudia, now in her 70s, were talking about establishing a new chain of Colonel's lady dinner houses with sit-down dinners of ham and lobster as well as chicken, the Sanderses accused Hugh Blaine of obstructing their new business and demanded $122 million damages. It now all seems like a mutual misunderstanding. Holland and Claudia have since sold their gabled Southern Man's and the adjoining original Colonel Ladies Restaurant, and it goes on to tell a few other things, but I'll skip and read something else. Holland Sanders was a sixth-grade dropout who took a correspondence course in law and claims to have been over the years a volunteer in Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, a midwife, and a railroad man. And it goes on to tell some other interesting things about him. But now, who could read an article like that and not become rich? You said I could. Now, what are you going to do? can't say I'm too old. Now, this man had one simple, very simple talent that I tell you about. He could fry chicken. Another multi-million-dollar food franchise business now is McDonald's. And as I've told you before, nothing but a greasy hamburger. The simplest ideas. A hamburger, a chicken. Some of you can fry chicken all over, Colonel Saunders. Why ain't you rich? You'd be surprised to know how many of you here who think that you have no talent. You have a multi-million-dollar talent. And I say that each one of you has a multi-million-dollar talent. And I'm going to ask you to acknowledge it, and by acknowledging it, it will come forth into your awareness. So touch yourself and say, I have a multi-million-dollar talent. Come on. Some of you don't convince me. Some of you don't sound like you believe it. Come on, if you believe it, stand up and point to yourself and say it. Come on. You still don't sound convincing to me. Come on, say it like you mean it before you sit down. Come on. Okay. Now, if you keep telling yourself that and you keep believing it, it will come to your notice. Remember, in the Gospels, Jesus made the statement, he shall have whatsoever he saith. If you say something and believe it, a man who says something and believes it, he shall have whatsoever he saith. And that's exactly what you've got anyway. You have exactly what you say. You've said, I'm poor, and that's what you are. You have said, I can't hold any money, and that's exactly the way it is. You have said, money just slips away from me, and that's exactly the way it is. He shall have whatsoever he saith. You have said, these are hard times. And that's exactly the way they are. As the Bible says again, thou art ensnared by the words of thy mouth. There's only one mouth that can curse you, and that's your own big mouth. And truly, there is only one mouth that can bless you, and that is your own big mouth. And so if you can use your big mouth to curse yourself, I'm here to teach you how to use your big mouth to bless yourself. If you can use your mouth to impoverish yourself, you can use your mouth to enrich yourself. You are your opinion of yourself. Whatever your opinion of yourself is, that's what you are.